Hello, loves. Today I have compiled quite a few good stories. Let's get started. Story: I, 38 am so exhausted, depressed, and beat down from never feeling attractive enough, even to my wife, 38F. How can I beat this feeling? I'm 38 years old, around 175 pounds, and right around 6 feet tall. I run and lift fairly regularly, and eat relatively healthy. I feel like maybe I could work on my midsection a little more, but I'm still in light athletic shape. I feel like I'm pretty average and plain in the face and maybe look a little young for my age. In the last few years I've really invested time and money in skincare and think it has paid off. I get fairly expensive haircuts every month or two to keep looking nice. And yet after all of that I am still so insecure about my appearance. I look in the mirror and I just never like what I see. No matter how much I work out, no matter how well I dress, no matter how much time I spend with different hair and skincare products, I still feel like there's just something about me that's off, and still never good enough. Like I just look a little goofy and just a little out of the ordinary, as if there's a little something unexplainable that puts me into some weird territory. Part of what makes me think this is that I don't feel like there's ever any external cues to let me know that all of my work in taking care of myself is paying off. My wife doesn't pay me that much attention. I never ever get compliments from anyone on how I dress or how much working out has paid off. When I am by myself in public, women never give me a second glance. There's just so much that tells me that I am just not enough when it comes to this. I know that a lot of people will say that attractiveness comes from other things as well. How funny a person is, how charismatic they are, stuff like that. I am feeling fairly confident about that too. I am a little shy and introverted until I get to know someone, but after that I feel fairly sure that I am charming and funny and caring for people. I just don't get it. I wish there was anything at all to tell me that I had some worth in terms of my appearance. Not having anything to go on makes me doubt myself and even hate myself at times. I know that things like this are supposed to come from within, but I feel like if I am only ever telling myself that and no one outside of my own biases ever tells me anything, it's just a delusion on my part. Story: Am I overreacting that my boyfriend doesn't propose to me? Me, 31 years old, and my partner, 31 years old, are together for 7 years now, and we just bought our very first house last week. We have been together since we were 24 and we are not engaged, and I don't know if he ever want to propose because he's not really talking about it. Even when I ask him we just arguing about it, so I never thought about marriage when I was younger, but then when we both turned like 26 to 27 I started to show interest about it, and at the same time everybody around us, all our friends got engaged, had wedding, expected their first child, etc. And I mentioned him that I want to get engaged before I turn 30. He never said anything. And I just kept repeating myself and he just kept saying nothing. I felt guilty and bad for mentioning and saying things like this to him because I didn't want to put pressure on him, but at the same time I wanted to know his thoughts and also let him know what I want. We were already saving up for deposit to buy a house, and once he said that after we have the house we want he can buy a nice ring and propose, but right now he doesn't have £5,000 to spend on a ring. I already knew what ring I want, and that doesn't cost that much, and also I would never want him to buy me such an expensive ring anyway, so I told him this and I sent him the rings I like, and I told him he can choose which one he wants to propose with. I just wanted him to know I don't expect anything expensive, I just want to see that he is serious too, just like me. His answer was that if he wouldn't be serious he would not buy a house with me. This was like 2 years ago. Since that, every holiday we go on, every night out together, every birthday, every family events we go together, I think he'll do it, but nothing. People around us keep questioning him about it and he just says, oh, our plan is to buy a house first and then I can afford a ring, but it's not our plan, just his. But it's awkward for me and it makes me angry because I already told him I don't want expensive ring and I wanted to get engaged before 30. Every time we talk about this we just arguing. He gets offended because I say what I think and what I feel, and then he doesn't really speaks to me for days. I just realized that we don't want the same things from life and it makes me sad. I'm 31 already and I don't want to say yes anymore to him because I feel he just ruined everything. I don't know what to do anymore because I can't have a serious conversation with him about this, and even if I would have one I feel nothing would change. I don't want to propose to him, that's just not me, and he would not want that either. I think the communication between us is very, very bad, and I don't know how to fix it because I know if I mention this he'll not talk to me. I just don't want to wait anymore, and I don't want to say yes anymore. And I hate this feeling. Even when I ask him, we just arguing about it. Story, feeling unappreciated and neglected in 6-year relationship, seeking advice. My fiancé's 35 years old and I am 29 years old have been fighting more recently because his actions seem selfish. We've been together for over 6 years, but I feel like a broken record constantly repeating myself without any change from him. I've asked him to learn how to cook and be more considerate in the bedroom. He doesn't cook at all, and when he tries, it's a disaster. In the bedroom, he always finishes, leaving me unsatisfied. Only recently has he started to clean up after himself because he was disgusted by his own bodily fluids. He hasn't matured much and still expects me to handle most things. When I went on a 6-month work trip, I hoped he'd learn to be more self-sufficient. Instead, he left the fridge untouched and didn't make any effort to cook, despite promising to make my favorite dishes. When I come home late from work in the gym, I often find him on the couch playing video games or watching TV, with nothing prepared. This frustrates me, especially since he doesn't take any initiative. Each year I've become more vocal about my needs and frustrations, which has led to more arguments. I feel like I'm talking to a toddler, reminding him to treat others how he wants to be treated. He often damages my things and tries to make up for it with money, but that doesn't solve the problem. I'm torn about whether to stay with him. My family loves him and I don't like to share anything bad about my relationships with anyone, even my friends. I can't imagine life without him, but I'm tired of feeling unappreciated and neglected. I'm seeking therapy to sort out my feelings and figure out the best path forward. I feel like I've tried everything and made every initiative. I'm tired of being sent memes in hopes of me forgiving him. I wish he'd stop apologizing and actually solve problems with me. My fiancés and I have been fighting more. I handle most of the chores and feel unappreciated. He doesn't take initiative in cooking or in the bedroom. Considering whether to stay with him and seeking therapy to sort out my feelings. Story, I, at 28F, don't know how to mend my relationship with my ex, 33M. Ex 33 years old and I am 28 years old were in a long-term relationship that was majorly toxic. Both parties contributed to constant fighting, abusive threats, emotional manipulation, psychological abuse, cheating, etc. throughout the duration of this relationship. Before you write this story off and make the obvious comment that this relationship is unhealthy, just hear me out and put yourself in my shoes. I really love this man and in a lot of ways will always love this man. However, after years of putting up with toxicity and selfishness from him, I had finally had enough. Long story short, we moved out on our own and parted ways, except we never actually stopped talking or seeing each other. We go through phases where everything is wonderful and then I'll find out that he's been looking for new connections on dating apps. When this happens, I tend to wander off and start talking to new people as well. Both of us act like this is unacceptable behavior even though we are not technically in an exclusive relationship. He will tell me how much he loves me and then when we spend time together it seems like all we do is bicker or make jabs at each other. On top of that, there hasn't been any physical intimacy in weeks and he is pushing and pressuring me into it. I feel uncomfortable with this, but he makes a very fair claim that physical intimacy is an important factor for him. It's clear that the correct answer is to break up and go no contact, but for some reason I just can't seem to do it. I clearly love him very much even if I'm not completely emotionally invested in the relationship right now, and we don't seem to be meeting one another's needs. I also don't trust his words because they don't seem to always match his actions. I truly don't know what to do or how to get through this. We have been terrible to one another and I feel this immense guilt in both leaving and staying. My friends and family can't stand him and vice versa. Any advice on how to leave, get over this, or even fix this is encouraged. Ex and I had a toxic relationship but can't stop seeing each other. He ruined the relationship and I ruined the breakup. I feel like I'm either stuck in a cycle of abuse or that maybe I am the abuser. Story, spouse is a chronic complainer. He does not see it this way. What is normal? I'm 33 years old. Spouse is 31 years old. Spouse complains about lack of sleep constantly. He's a chronic complainer but doesn't see it this way. What is normal? For context, we have an almost 3-year-old and my husband works from home. Since our child has been born, he's been the primary caretaker because I leave to a medical office Monday through Friday for work and am home by 4 p.m. to take over. He works overnight. He absolutely refuses outside help even now with his mom who's recently moved into town. He essentially has to function off of at best 3 to 6 hours of broken up sleep spread across pre-shift and post-shift. I absolutely get it. I've acknowledged how crappy this schedule is and continue to make effort to provide him relief here and there, like leaving early from work, taking PTO, etc. And genuinely, when I know for a fact he didn't sleep well or had a terrible day where he has to function off of the bare minimum, I don't care if he says a complaint or two about being exhausted. However, this is an everyday thing. It is the theme of our conversation 80% of the time. If it's bath time or having family time, it's an ever-revolving wheel of very negative ick about grocery shopping. I'm exhausted. And usually his complaints tie to our child. He woke up too early this morning and I'm too exhausted, then rants about how he doesn't know how he's going to function for work. Or it's I couldn't sleep well because of their tantrum. The big picture here is that the reason why he's not getting enough sleep is because of our child's schedule. Just like any parent. But to complain about it nearly all day and all night long. Last winter he spent the entire 3 months complaining on how cold it was, begging every night for the summer to get here. He complained nearly every single day and night how it affected his back, and he'd at least once a day make a comment about praying to the God for summer to get here. We live in a southern state, so once it got here it was hot. What does he end up doing? Complains every day how hot it is. How miserable he is. How he can't work in the garage well because of how hot it gets in there. He works in the garage to take meetings so he doesn't wake up our child, and now I've had a bad taste in my mouth because, didn't you ask for this? He's also extremely unpleasant to be around in these state where he's in his complaining mode. I want to know, am I just being insensitive? He says that his entire childhood family did this. They'd just complain to each other as if it was a fun pastime hobby or something. In my household growing up, it was seen extremely negatively. You'd come off ungrateful as a non-doer and nut up shut up type household. I need some desperate insight. I have tried the shoulder or solution. His answer to that was he never wants a solution. He just wants to complain. Is chronic complaining totally normal? Again. He doesn't even use the word complaining. He sees it as a fun pastime and a way to be supported. Story, mentally drained from family, so problems. I can't take it. How do I make it stop? I am 31 years old, felt like I had a nearly perfect life. And I was always seen as the perfect daughter. Then I met my first boyfriend, 30 years old, and it felt like he made my life better. And then it went downhill. I'm not sure if I need advice or just moral support, I just feel overwhelmed. I keep having fights with him and my parents in their 60s, and most often than not I am not the initiator, and I hate it because it's like I'm never allowed to have peace anymore. If my isn't picking fights with me, it's my parents picking fights with me about him. I feel helpless, drained, and like I want to cry. I don't know what to do. My heart aches. It's like the only time I'm truly happy now is at work when I'm away from everyone I love. My parents told me they hate him, they can't stand him, they want me to dump him, and they say he's going to ruin my life. It doesn't matter what he does, they find a way to criticize him and remind me of how much they hate him. I've been with him nearly 2 years, is constantly thinking negative about them and has insulted them to my face. We've had big fights over this when he has episodes. And I don't think he likes them much in general anymore. The truth is I love my a lot and he does make me happy, even if my posts don't always reflect it. I love being in his arms. He's my best friend. And I miss him when we're apart. We have fun together and he does try to take care of me. But he has some mental health struggles and that's led to emotional abuse toward me during episodes, and that makes me miserable. It got really bad. Long story, something happened that my parents got involved, and while the situation between me and has since improved, his episodes are less and he's worked to improve. Their relationship with him is strained. My relationship with my parents in turn is not as good as it was because I've stand up for him when I thought my parents were being unfair, just like I've stood up for them when I thought he was being unfair. This is getting to be too much. I feel depressed. I feel drained. Anxious. Everyone is breaking my heart. I want peace. Can it get better? How can I find peace? What can I do? I feel hopeless. My parents and BF don't like each other and they all keep picking fights with me, making me miserable. What can I do to make it stop? Story, my boyfriend, 25M is not who I, 25F, thought he was. How do I move on from this? I don't even know where to start. I feel like my whole worldview has changed. First of all, I know that every year starts with my boyfriend is the most lovely person. And I thought the same. But just so you don't think I'm completely delusional, every person who has met my boyfriend or heard about some of the stuff he's done for me have loved him. He's usually very attentive, caring, plans nice surprises, emotionally supportive, affectionate, etc., etc. Genuinely felt like a book character written by a woman. My mum loves him too. It all started when he got demotivated and then very depressed because he wasn't doing well in his career. I was worried about him and our future TBH, so I was encouraging him to apply to jobs etc., to which he said he would, but still have very little motivation. Anyways, long story short is I was constantly reminding him and asking if he's been applying, and I guess he got stressed out because he basically lied to me and said he was applying to stuff when he didn't. He lied about this a few times over a couple of weeks. He knows it's wrong, so he's not justifying it, but he explained in his brain he thought by not disappointing me and saying he already did something would give him motivation to actually do it. Anyways, I thought this was very out of character, so I decided to forgive after a bit of arguing etc., but in the back of my head I felt like something was off and I couldn't trust him, so I dug through his phone, which for the past 10 years I've had access to. He shared all his pins and passwords to me. While digging, I found a conversation this happened 6 years ago with a friend who was a girl. They discussed some sexual stuff, not sexting, but more like I like this, and later things like, I would like to do this with my GF, or we're both switches. But she also divulges quite a lot of sexual stories. He doesn't react a lot to them. She goes, I've shared a lot of secrets, now it's your turn. And he shares that when he was young, way before he met me, he experienced a hand job from another guy. I've literally never heard this story and I just feel very betrayed. I've had chats like these with female friends and gay guys, but I don't think it's ever something I've shared with a straight guy friend 1:1. I get that he made the existence of me very plain, but just feels odd. I feel like boundaries were completely crossed in telling other people things that I don't know. Feels like emotional cheating. Anyway, I'm going to confront him and very likely leave. But I just want perspectives. Or like advice from people that have had something similar happen to them. I know it's 6 years ago, but I feel like I don't know him anymore. I'm so perplexed because this doesn't match with the person I thought I knew. At all shy, reserved, very loving, telling me he misses me every day, writes love letters, gets giddy when seeing me kind of person. How can you fake being so in love for the last 10 years? Any pearls of wisdom very greatly appreciated. Boyfriend of 10 years spoke about sexual topics not on a sexting way with a female friend. And spoke about a sexual encounter from before he met me that I didn't know about. I'm likely going to leave, but how do I deal with this? Any other perspectives? Story, at an impasse with girlfriend about her education. What do I do? 26M and 26F. My girlfriend is really upset about her choice of schools and wants my help, but didn't apply and doesn't seem to be putting in effort. What do I do? My girlfriend is bright and driven, but deeply depressed and prone to shutdowns. She dropped out of art school as an upper junior a long time ago in the midst of family and personal chaos. Now, 6 years later, she's completed an associate's degree and wants to finish a bachelor's. The problem is that she doesn't like the only school that took her, a high-quality but less exciting local public college. The problem isn't her grades. She graduated summa cum laude with glowing recommendations for multiple professors. I told her while she was applying that a full-time job plus a full course load and an internship would make it near impossible to make a good application anywhere. She chose to continue full throttle anyway and missed nearly every deadline. She specifically chose not to apply to the local Ivy League institution because it would be embarrassing, in her words. Now she is in tears every single day as she feels her potential is being wasted. It doesn't help that said public college has horrible bureaucracy and has messed up her credit evaluation. For the record, I agree that she could get into a better institution if she put her mind to it. She has been in deeper moments of crisis shouting at me and telling me I didn't help enough, but I just am not sure what I should have done without her giving herself the space to work on it. A few times I've suggested applying for the coming spring, but she just starts self-deprecating and shutting that down. She begs for help and accuses me of getting in the way of her dreams, but then turns down every specific offer of help. I am feeling really drained. I want to know what personal changes I can make to stop feeling so drained and support her better. When I began writing this, she was on her way out to the gym. She stopped right at the front door to turn around and complain about the school situation. This escalated into telling me how ugly she thought she was. I tried reassuring her, and she opened her phone and started going through pictures of herself from years ago to illustrate her point. This escalated into calling herself a failure with nowhere to go in the world, which then escalated into throwing her phone and making suicide jokes. Finally, I couldn't take it and had a panic attack, at which point her mood changed and she began kissing me all over, at which I could only cringe, and then left for the gym as if nothing had happened. This all took over 3 hours. There are of course many sides to every story. Here are the ways I give her a hard time. I am a teacher and the generic book-smart type. She has significant trauma with school, and especially with her father, who used to shake her and call her stupid. She really doesn't like my intellectual show-offy manner. I try to minimize this and talking about work in general, but I know that I haven't done enough. I could certainly be a better listener and better at responding to her when she spirals. I know that I am supposed to remain calm and reassuring, but it does hurt. The result is that I am at first robotic and then despondent. I just still haven't found the best way to be supportive. I myself have rather low self-confidence. I know this is really unattractive and not very healthy to be around. There is surely much more that I don't see about myself. How should I support her? To what extent should I be helping her? I can't start these applications for her, that would be a breach of ethics. But should I just accidentally do so anyway? This is important to me, and I want to make sure she has a good outcome. Story: BF flying out for 3 weeks, feeling extremely sad and nervous. How do I cope? My boyfriend, 21 years old, and me, 20 years old, have been together for nearly 6 months and 2 days from now. He is currently boarding his flight back to his home. He has not seen his family in years as he moved abroad at a young age. I am very happy he is getting to see his family, however, I am extremely scared and nervous. We have fought a lot over stuff due to miscommunication, his expectations, some stuff I did, or how we both hurt each other unknowingly due to both of our insecurities. This is also my first actual serious relationship where the end goal for both of us is marriage. I was in a relationship last year, but it was barely 3 months and my ex cheated. Me and my boyfriend did have a major fight, 3 consecutive fights which lasted 2 weeks. One was my fault, it was something related to trust, the other 2 were ignited by him for either no exact reason, but the premise being I wasn't being a good listener and I was not working on myself. We both come from very different backgrounds, both financially and culturally, and we jumped into a relationship within 10 days of meeting, so this is all understandable. However, since the last fight, less than 2 weeks back I think, I did consider breaking up because of his tone and not being mature enough, but all the memories and everything came back. He apologized for his tone and behavior, promised to work on it while I promised to work on myself and our issues too. He said he would make sure I won't regret it. Now back to these few days. He suddenly needed to fly to his hometown as his parents kept insisting on wanting to see him while he was avoiding it. His cousin fell sick, so it triggered his parents to get him back home. He is now happy about going, and as much as I hate the fact we will be long distance for 3 weeks, our communication sorta sucks, lack of proper internet connectivity, and since he will be busy with traveling, health checkups, seeing family, it would be hard to keep in touch as much. I am a very emotional person, I have anxiety and ADHD and tend to overthink and go insane a lot. A little clingy too, I just love with passion. Now that he is flying out and I won't see him, I'm really sad. He used to sleep over 2 nights a week and sometimes we would see each other 3 to 4 times a week aside from daily FaceTimes or calls and sending reels. Just the fact we haven't gone more than a week without seeing each other, our communication compromised. My insecurity in him not texting as often or being as expressive since our fight is really making me go crazy. He did get me a plushie, let me take his hoodies, got me some kinky stuff for our time, and even spent the last 2 to 3 days with me since he had to fly out, and even started posting me on his close friends, something he never really did and only started doing it after our fight cause I always posted him on my spam and he knew I like it. He usually doesn't post stories often and is worried people will put a bad eye on us, but him not being as expressive on text makes it harder for me. He even told his roommates how life has become simpler and better for him cause I'm here and he is able to focus on work too. Though we fight so much, he cares about me and is always there through my mental health struggles, buys me courses to upskill in life and get ahead of my peers and everything. Earlier he used to send many paragraphs or voice notes, but now it's like I am the one texting first most times or him not opening messages till I double text and crap. And he won't say I love you as much as what I feel, though he does say it otherwise. He is not as expressive and admits it. All of this just scares me so much. He told me this isn't a goodbye and he will be back soon and promises we will make it way stronger than before. Yeah, I do get it, things don't necessarily stay the same after a fight, but I just need some sort of reassurance. What he says doesn't give me enough hope right now. My campus therapist said that it is a good time for us to know more about each other, manage the distance, and I get myself back on track to work on myself like I was hoping to do. But again, the overwhelming feelings and fears has made me go insane. Anyone has tips on how to manage my emotions and actually stop getting so damn emotional over this? Boyfriend of 6 months is flying out for 3 weeks and our communication may be strained. Past fights and instability is adding to my fears and insecurities, though we both vowed to make it work and become stronger. I need tips on how to work on managing my emotions, stop getting emotional and make it work. Story: my 20F girlfriend, 20F, is not responding, but I can't tell if she ghosted or something happened. Is there anything else I can do? Advice on moving on from this? What do you think happened? My girlfriend, 20 years old, has been radio silent for 3 weeks and I'm at the point of considering it a ghosting, but the suddenness of it has me so worried I find it impossible to just move on from her character. We matched on Tinder about 3 months ago, real romantic, and were only official for about a week before she disappeared. We had been going on weekly dates since we matched, most of these lasting close to 12 hours as we'd get lunch, go for a 4-mile walk, and talk. She brought me a flower she picked on almost every date and has been incredibly considerate and sweet. Our interests are very different, but that didn't hold us back as we could carry a conversation about anything and found things to do together we both enjoyed. She grew up in a small, rural town and comes from a homophobic family who she is not out to yet, as she has reason to suspect they may disown her and plans to wait a few more years. She had been hoping to get off work to visit family for the 4th. My last message before she disappeared was asking if she would be able to. I never received confirmation that she was, but I assumed that she did and was not responding due to travel and family, and initially that she had decided to extend her trip when the silence carried on through the weekend. No social media. A combination of her upbringing being largely analog and being a comp sci major giving her the ick towards social media. She's not on anything but Indeed for school, networking. I have attempted to add her on Indeed in case there is a phone-related reason we have lost contact, and at least if my connection is rejected I know she doesn't want to talk but is alive. The message has been pending for just under a week. I also sent a message on Tinder with my hashtag because we exchanged those in person, but she deleted the app and doesn't appear to have been on, and if her account is with her number and that changed she wouldn't have access to that either. She did not always text every day. I did not mind this as we had outstanding conversation in person and she showed her interest face to face rather than digitally. But this did leave sometimes a gap of a day, maybe 2, where I would not hear from her, even on her day off, and when she did text, it was usually for a few minutes and she'd be unreachable again for about 24 hours. This was probably my biggest discomfort with the relationship, which I had intended to discuss the next time we saw each other, and may be the reason that most heavily influences my belief she ghosted. I do not know her apt. There were at least 2 dates where we sat in my car for an hour, talking when I dropped her off, but she did not invite me up or tell me the for future reference. I interpreted this at the time as it being late, 10 p.m. 12, and her not trying to keep me as I always worked the next morning, not wishing to insinuate more by inviting me up. The last time I saw her I said if we were going to chat for an hour so often she'd have to invite me soon. BC the car was uncomfortable, but that I wasn't inviting myself up. She chuckled and said okay. She did not initiate hand-holding or the few kisses we had, but her face lit up when I asked to. When I asked if there was a reason she had not been initiating, she said she did not want to make me uncomfortable, something I would attribute to a homophobic upbringing I can relate to but have personally much more overcome. We only became official on our last date, about 5 days before she disappeared. She has Android, my texts don't say delivered to any Android friends, but her phone still rings before voicemail when I call, so I do not believe I am blocked. Which means calls and texts just asking if she was okay went through and were ignored. Kind of hard to believe she would do that, even if she did not want to speak with me. And if she doesn't want to speak with me, why am I not just blocked? I have Apple. Is there an indicator I've been blocked that I'm missing? She has had relationships before, at least 2, so homophobia has not held her back in the past. She identifies as a lesbian and appears to have no shame or trepidation with it. I am concerned, however, if it came up while she was home for the 4th somehow, and if there was some sort of intervention, those can be bad. She had recently been diagnosed with a heart murmur, which a doctor just determined to be harmless, but I can't stop worrying something happened in relation to this. I asked her 4 to 5 dates in what she was looking for. The answer was a committed relationship. We had a laugh that we'd both attempted casual in the past, but did not have the capacity to date casually. She acknowledged that she may not have time for dates weekly when school started, but that she would focus on getting a car so she could more easily come to my side of town rather than bus or Uber BC. She felt bad. I was making the full commute and would drop her off at home after. What I gleaned from this is we had agreed on our intentions and were beginning to solidify future plans, intentions. As stated above, she brought me flowers, and she was first to pick up the check, which I reciprocated the next date, so she shouldn't have felt I was taking advantage. We were taking turns. Both I would consider strong indicators someone is invested because they are showing commitment through actions that are not required of them. We had been making plans for the Renaissance Fair, and she was planning her costume as well as the expense and how she could invest in something more pricey if she could also wear it in her regular rotation. I would consider this another sign of intending on at least a near future together because of how much thought she was putting into plans. I looked her up online for any obituaries. There were none, but the website I was forwarded to was Truthfinder, which notified me she was flagged as being on a government watch list. I was not looking for this information, but what? I wondered if this was related to the screening process for her military application, but according to the definition on the site, that shouldn't be the case. I'm not about to pay the website money for her information, so I do not know the details of the watch list, but an address with her hometown was attached to her name and phone number, so I'm fairly confident it is really her. I don't even know how this could be related other than making the disappearance around the time she was supposed to go home so much weirder. The site does say this does not indicate criminal activity, could be related to someone she knows, or just reasonable suspicion without any wrongdoing. We became official on our last date. On this date we talked about a number of things before starting a relationship, including her interest in joining the military, our relationships with our parents, communication, and exclusivity. When I inquired upon her interest in the military, and let her know the long distance required of the branch she was considering did not align with my lifestyle goals, I had been worried we might be at an impasse that would end our relationship. Instead, she backpedaled that she was not fully decided yet and open to being swayed. Her mom was already convincing her not to. Discussing our relationships with our parents is when she confirmed she intends to tell her parents in the future, but not for a few years, and said she'd be willing to talk more about family at a later date, not dinner, understandably, but therefore indicating future opportunity to discuss. On the topic of communication, she admitted it came less naturally to her, whereas I have no issue bringing attention to topics which need to be discussed, even when I don't want to. I said I'd be okay with it if she felt more comfortable discussing things on a call or over text, to which she said no, she wanted to handle serious conversations in person. Finally, on the topic of exclusivity, this was after she had confirmed she wanted to be in a relationship with me. She was the one who said exclusivity would be a non-negotiator for her, which I agreed to. It's what I wanted as well. On our last date, she looked me in the eye and said she felt so secure in our relationship, she wasn't used to it, but she was very happy about it. The last time I heard from her, she gave me the dates she would be available for a trip we were planning to take together. I had messaged to ask if she really wanted to go and didn't feel pressured, as she'd missed texting one day. We texted back and forth the next, then she missed 2 more, but she responded that she definitely wanted to go. Her boss had not given her the time off she requested for our trip, but she gave me the days that would work for her with the intention to trade some shifts. My response to her was that I would hold off further planning until she had secured the shifts, then we could discuss hotels and packing. And lastly, an inquiring message as to whether she had been given the time off to visit family, which she never responded to, so I had assumed the answer was yes, and that was the reason for her sudden silence. After a week of no responses to a few messages and calls just asking to know she was okay, I accepted that, if she had not responded yet, more attempts would not help. I'm sure she isn't getting my messages for one reason or another. My last message can be summarized as, if she wishes to ghost, I can respect that. I would however like to know she is okay, and would appreciate confirmation she wishes to terminate our relationship as we agreed to exclusivity. In case I do not hear from her, I gave her a date upon which I would be considering this a breakup. I have a brief message planned that I intend as my last correspondence upon that date, summarized as, I'm taking this as a breakup as there is nothing more I can do. I'm sad as this meant a lot to me, and if she ever sees the message I would like to know that she is alright. I'm also leaving the door open as I do not wish to break up, I just don't know what more I can do. I don't want to bother her in case she did suddenly decide she wanted to go no contact. I truly just want to confirm that she is alright. It's hard to move on when I can't stop waiting, worrying I'll get a call from her in the hospital. The other night I had a nightmare about it. I know this will pass, but it's been awful trying to move on. I can typically see a ghosting coming and it doesn't faze me, I just move on and don't waste my time. I'm wishing she rejected me to my face so I could stop worrying. As of Monday I'll be taking it as a breakup, but it really doesn't feel like one so I feel weird about it. I'm doing okay by the way. I went on the trip by myself since I never heard from her, I got to see a bunch of cool stuff. I have a great support system which I've been utilizing. I'm keeping active and have a lot going well for me right now. I don't think there's any more I can do, just move on like I've begun to I guess. Story, I, 18F, don't know what to do of my relationship with my GF, 18F, due to some shady behavior. I, 18 years old, don't know what to do about my relationship with my girlfriend 18 years old of some shady behavior. I am 18 years old, recently started dating my best friend, now girlfriend, also 18 years old. Previously, we had been together for around 6 months before going official. I do have to say those months were a little rocky, but eventually we got it together. Anyways, she's been acting strange for a while now, and I don't know what to do about it. When summer break started, I was really scared we wouldn't get to see each other, a lot of family vacation plans and the fact that we live a bit far away from each other. And it's been like that. I did get to see her about a week and a half ago. We got a call that my grandfather had passed away and we had to cut the vacation early in order to go back to my city for the funeral. I asked her if she could go since I really didn't feel like going alone, she lives in the same city. She kind of ignored the proposition and kept talking about other stuff. I kinda wish she had said something, it doesn't matter if it was a no, I would have just liked to get an answer. The next day, I asked her if she wanted to hang out and we got together at a mall. The original plan was to get something to eat and spend the afternoon together. When we arrived she decided to go to the cinema instead, and I agreed. Everything was going fine, but when I asked her at what hour should my parents come to pick me up, she said that as soon as the movie ended, a couple of hours before we had originally planned. I thought she maybe had something to do later, but she said no. I lied and told her they couldn't pick me up until the hour we had agreed on. I did this BC, I wanted to spend as much time as I could with her. She said okay, but I could tell it wasn't a good okay. She tried using as an excuse that I would have to spend time with her mom since she was at the mall, but I said I didn't have a problem with that. We ate with her mom and I engaged a conversation with her, but my girlfriend wasn't. At one point, her mom asked me if I wanted to go on a trip with them to a nearby town, and as I was asking about the dates and stuff, my girlfriend interrupted and said no, she can't go, she's gonna be away from town. Which I mean is true, but it just felt wrong the way she said it. The rest of the date was like this, me talking with her mom, her being silent, and eventually I got home. She didn't even held my hand in the whole day, let alone kiss me or hug me. Every time I tried to, she just kinda separated from me as soon as she could. Ever since, she has barely spoken to me. I ended up retaking the vacation, and prioritized staying in contact with her. But she will take days to respond, and when she does it's quite dry, or just a sticker. I know she's available BC, I can see her active on other apps, and I normally don't have a problem with people taking their time to respond, but I feel like days is a little extreme. I thought maybe she was busy, so I asked her and she responded with not at all. Recently, I was scrolling on TikTok and on my FYP appeared a video she had reposted. Out of curiosity I went on to check her reposts and it kinda surprised me what I found. She's obsessed with this reggaeton artist and a lot of the reposts were of her. I didn't really care about those. The thing is, a lot of her reposts are about really pretty girls, far more pretty than me, just showing their faces or lip-syncing to a random song. To be honest, I'm very insecure about the way I look, so that's that. But my breaking point was when I found a video of some music lyrics. They said something along the lines of, "Do I really love them, or am I just bored?" and it honestly broke my heart into pieces. I started crying and stuff. I asked her about it and she just said it was her favorite part of the song. After that, I spoke to a friend about how I felt. At first, I didn't want to do so since we're both in the same friend group and I didn't want to start drama, but I just had to share my feelings and concerns with someone. As we were talking, she reminded me of a lot of stuff that I had let slip, but now they seem so relevant I wish I hadn't. Going back a few months when we were first going out, we were not GFS then, the kind of relationship we were perusing was a bit unclear. I have to admit at that time I messed around with other people, but it was only physical, not a single romantic thing. Every time I did I told her, not in a braggy way, I just wanted her to know that I did, and I would rather tell her myself than someone else telling her. One day she told me this actually bothered her, since she was looking for a serious, closed relationship, and she asked me for time off in order to gather her thoughts. I gave it to her, and after a while we decided we both wanted a serious closed relationship, and I've never since done anything with anyone. I feel ashamed of messing around like that. I was going through some stuff, but I know it's not an excuse. After we agreed on that, she started acting a bit shady. She kept her phone close to her at all times. She has one of these screen protectors that doesn't let you see the screen if you're far or at some angles, and every time she picked her phone up, it was clear she placed it at those angles in order for me to not see. When we were watching TikToks or something, she would slide up the notifications really quickly as soon as they popped, and eventually put her phone on sleep mode. One day, a mutual friend told me she was talking with this girl she met on a volleyball match. She plays volleyball, let's call her Val, but she didn't know if she was just casually talking or if it was more than that. Some information you need to know at this point is that she's an asexual, not interested in anything sex-related at all. She's grossed out by it. My friend told me to keep an eye out for Ball, since my girlfriend has cheated in previous relationships. I honestly didn't think much of it, because I trust her or I did at this point. After some days, while hanging with our friend group, she mentioned she was talking with this girl, let's call her Ash. About a year ago, Ash and I had some sort of situationship for a little time, but I ended up leaving because she hurt me a bunch. At that time my girlfriend kinda knew Ash, and they would text a bit. Literally like 2 weeks after Ash and I stopped going out, my girlfriend and Ash kissed, and they had some weird thing where like it was a joke and stuff, but my girlfriend started liking her. Quick reminder, this was about a year ago. Coming back to the conversation with my friends, it made me kinda mad, and really insecure, but I let it slide cause I don't have the right to tell her who she can speak to. A week from this, one of my friends told me I should really do something about it because the way they were talking didn't seem to be in a friend way anymore. That day I had a whole anxiety attack and decided to talk with her about it. In this talk, I told her how I felt insecure and stuff, but I didn't tell her to stop talking to her. I told her if she wanted to keep talking with Ash it was fine, but if at any point she wanted to pursue some relationship with her, I preferred she told me and not cheat on me. She said she wasn't gonna speak to her anymore, but here's some details of the convo I feel are important. Firstly, she told me that one day she went to eat with Val, and that Val brought her flowers. She said something along the lines of she probably did it because my birthday was a week ago and I didn't think much of it. The thing that really bothered me though, my GF jokingly talked of some texts that Ash had sent her. The one that hurt me the most was one where Ash told her blah blah blah, and after that I'm giving you the best kiss of your life. I was like, straight face. So I asked her what had she responded. She told me I told her okay. I mean, she's the type of person that responds okay to absolutely everything, but that just felt out of place. Should I talk to her and tell her how I feel, and if so, what should I tell her? Should I just end things now? Are the things I mentioned something I should keep an eye on? Am I overreacting? Do I keep trusting her? It's just my anxiety overthinking. Am I going insane? So yeah, that's the whole thing. I don't know what to do. I'm worried that she's starting to talk with someone else, or that she's lost interest in me. I don't know if I should confront her. At the same time I feel like I may be overreacting. I know this is some dumb high school drama, but I'd really appreciate if someone shares some advice, or some objective POV. I'm sorry if the post is messy. I tried my best to explain everything. I am 18 years old, recently started dating 18 years old my best friend, and while our relationship had a rocky start, things have been going well until recently. She's been acting distant and uninterested, especially during our recent meetup where she avoided physical contact and cut our time short. She's been slow to respond to my messages despite being active on social media, and her TikTok reposts, particularly one questioning if she really loves me, have made me feel insecure. Additionally, she's been secretive with her phone and had concerning interactions with other girls. I'm unsure if I should talk to her about my feelings and things, or if I'm overreacting. Story: how do I, F32, communicate to my best friend, F32, that her career goals are becoming an obstacle in our friendship. Hello everyone, I am in a kind of pickle with one of my very dear friends. She is very nice, talkative and social but very career-driven, which is a good thing, and I have been pushing her to do more with her life. She has been taking care of her sick dad for years and didn't go out much. I met 2.5 years ago and her dad unfortunately passed away in April. Since I met her, she started working a job to have more of a purpose, and then she got a second one since she felt like one wasn't enough, both government jobs but still at junior level. Even last year we didn't do like a weekly hangout, more like once a month and a half kind of meet to do a catch-up of our lives. But since the beginning of the year we meet up just twice, once in January on my birthday and then unfortunately when her father passed. I have been trying to reach out every other week to check up on her and if possible meet up, but she just takes on every possible chore that her job gives her voluntarily, even if we have plans to get up the ladder faster by doing more than her job description. This was even before her father passed. The pickle is that when sometimes friends from outside the country or relatives come to our city, she makes time for them, but for me it feels like I have become a burden and she doesn't want to meet. I brought it up with her once after my birthday and she did tell me that she wants to focus more on work since she hasn't been able to due to her father's illness and really cares about me and considers me like family, but every attempt to hang out seems to be shut down because of work. We sometimes make plans and then she doesn't follow up with a meeting hour, so I text her. She then says that she is working so she cannot make it like today. She more often than not doesn't reach out to inform me about the cancelled plans. She's a great friend to me and I do care about her, so I was wondering how do I bring it up to her to meet up a little more often, still not weekly due to her work, but maybe once at every 2 months max since my feelings are getting hurt by this constant rejection, poor planning on her part. My best friend, who is very career focused at the moment, doesn't make any time for a meet-up, cancels plans without telling me most of the time. How do I bring it up to her that this is hurting my feelings and our friendship? Story, I, F, 30, don't know how to cope with my boyfriend, M, 41, of 2 years and his inability to grasp reality. I'm 30 years old, struggling to cope with what I believe is my boyfriend, ex-boyfriend's, 41 years old, lack of a full sense of reality. To provide some context, this all started about 2 years ago, 3 months after we started dating, when he had an episode of acute psychosis and committed himself under the Baker Act. He was afraid of people breaking in the windows and thought someone had broken into his roommate's room, so he broke down his roommate's door. Since then, he has been functioning relatively well and appears to be of sound mind in casual conversations. However, he has occasionally mentioned that he still sees shadow beings but has learned to live with them. He doesn't want to discuss this further because he fears being labeled crazy. He also reaches conclusions that make no sense and refuses to listen to me or accept any evidence that contradicts his beliefs. The most notable and persistent example is his belief that I supply weed to the local dealer I have bought small amounts from before. Despite having no reason to think this and me offering proof and even sharing my GPS location, he refuses to believe me. He doesn't believe almost anything I say, which is stressful and odd. When I was recently in the hospital, he didn't believe what I told him the doctor said either. I'm fed up with being treated this way and constantly being accused of lying. I've told him to stay away multiple times, which is why I referred to him as my boyfriend, ex-boyfriend. However, he shows up anyway, acting as if it's a normal day. If I tell him to leave, he refuses and just sits on the couch, knowing I can't physically make him leave. Recently, he's been talking about missing his family out of state. I've encouraged him to go be with them, as it seems he takes out a lot of his negative emotions on me and might be happier there. But he responds that he'll do what he wants, either staying or going, and won't be chased off by me. I really don't know how to cope with any of this. I'm 30 years old, struggling with my boyfriend, ex-boyfriend's, 41 years old, disconnection from reality. After an episode of acute psychosis 2 years ago, he still sees shadow beings and holds irrational beliefs, like thinking I supply weed to a local dealer. He refuses to believe anything I say, even about my recent hospital visit. Despite telling him to stay away, he shows up and refuses to leave. He misses his out-of-state family, and I've encouraged him to go, but he insists on doing what he wants and won't be chased off. I don't know how to cope with this situation. I neglected to mention that his mother has been diagnosed as bipolar, so I often wonder if any of this behavior from him are symptoms of bipolar. I have attempted to bring this up to him, but he shuts me down and won't even consider the possibility. Story, my husband told me he also loves someone else. My husband, Grant, 33 male, and I, 30 female, have been together for 12 years, married 3. We originally were living in my home state but moved to his after his parents' health started to take a decline. We've been living here for several years now. In that time I met a girl, 26 female, at work about 3 years into us moving, and after bringing her around me, my husband and her were all friends. We had a period where we didn't talk with her for maybe 2 years due to issues in our relationship with how my work was going, and her with a toxic friend group. TBF, we should have stayed and helped her out, but my husband and I were having a tough time barely seeing each other. Eventually we reconnected at the beginning of the year, and we would bring her out of her house to hang out and let her decompress from home life. A few months ago I noticed Grant was a lot more silent than normal, barely texting when we were at work and being somewhat physically distant. I eventually asked him what was wrong, and he said he was going through some mental issues. We both are diagnosed depressed, so I thought it stemmed from that. We made up, but there's still a very subtle hint of tension. When hanging or chatting in person, Grant is reserved, not as much in chat but definitely in person. I noticed in our friend chat he was the one more likely to initiate conversation than when it was just us, and I thought he was just trying to help keep her occupied. He initiated hangouts, which was weird because we were both home buddies. It started to nag at me when we would all hang out, and he would buy things for her too. I'm the one in the friend work group that people go to for advice, so I tend to pick up on things more than others, and about a month ago it sort of dawned on me that there was more than friendship there, at least from him. Recently, Grant was even more in his thoughts, and it was concerning me. I eventually got him to start talking, and at first he was very vague, and kept insisting he loved me. I didn't doubt that, but I had to guess he had feelings for someone, and guess again it was our friend. My heart sank when he acknowledged it, because it seemed like at first he couldn't admit it to himself. He eventually told me that he sort of figured it out when I confronted him about the distance, and had been battling with himself on how to tell me. He did insist he did not love me less, but loves her the same as me. I'll be honest, I'm probably still in shock and I'm not sure how to process. I feel like I should have been mad when he told me, but I can't bring myself to be. I'm not mad at her because she doesn't know. She's also in a relationship of her own and has never really expressed interest in anybody but the person she's with. And I understand people can love differently and the same for different people. We both just didn't think we would have to deal with this. I'm just not sure how to proceed. This man is the love of my life, and I don't think I can feel the same way I do for him as someone else. Leaving him isn't an option for me. I just need a way to navigate this. Story: should I break up with my girlfriend? Hey, so this is complicated, but I will try to keep it simple. I am 27 years old, and about 3 months ago, I met 27 years old a girl and we hit it off right away. For some background, she is one of the first real relationships I ever had, and I am used to being alone and mostly just keeping to myself. I live with my mom and enjoy video games, anime, and all things nerdy, so I'm that type of guy. Needless to say, this is all new to me, and she also has 2 kids and an ex-husband, all of which she was upfront with me about. For the first few months everything was amazing, especially the S word. We were so passionate and I grew to really care for her and her kids, who in retrospect I may have met too early on. Anyway, I got sick recently and she has been going through a lot too planning this party for her and her family. She texted me today saying that she wanted space and is going through a lot, and I assumed that meant I could get out of driving the hour and a half to her house to go to the family party, and sadly that made me happy. The reason I say sadly that made me happy is because I feel guilty and bad that I was happy I had a chance to bail on that. Anyway, we had a long conversation tonight and I kinda told her I feel like we are rushing and I'm not ready for the commitment of everything due to some of the stuff I said in the first paragraph, how I am used to being a loner homebody. But she has been nothing but amazing and nice to me, and even helped me come out of my shell a bit. Even still, I can't help but think that eventually I will want to break up because someday she will want to move in together and have me take a big responsibility role with the kids, and I don't know if I will ever be ready for it. I expressed the exact paragraph above pretty much word for word to her, and she will says she wants to stay together and to not worry about the future and live in the moment. I tried to get her to break up with me, I guess, by making it clear I wasn't sure if we were going to last forever and wasn't ready for a long-term commitment. She has kids and other drama. She instead said she loves me and wants us to work out, making me think she is a prize and it would be selfish and I would regret it if we broke up because the only reason I want to is just so I can go back to gaming all the time and doing whatever the hell I want. And I don't think that's a good enough reason because overall she really does care about me, and I know for a fact a girl like that is hard to find because she is amazing, so I may regret it later if I end things. Story: my BF of 4 years told me to find someone else if I want something long-term and that he doesn't believe in monogamy. I'm 26 years old. We've been together since I was 21 years old. He is now 31 years old. We've been together for 4 years in a monogamous relationship. I have a good job and have been stable since we met running my own business. He had a stable job, then 2020 happened, and he hasn't been stable financially until the end of last year. We also live together. We were discussing the future, and I don't even necessarily want to get married, but a promise ring would be ideal. He brought up having children about a year ago, which I would like to have some form of commitment if we were to go ahead on the child situation. I grew up in a broken home, as did he, and I wouldn't like the same for my children ideally. I expressed worries of being a single mother and he said, "You wouldn't be, we would co-parent and you have family and friends, you would be fine." He said no to the promise ring and that he could see being with me for about 5 more years, maybe longer, but not long-term. He told me, if you want to be with someone forever you should go be with someone else. Which was very painful because this has been the longest relationship in my adult life. Apparently he doesn't believe in monogamy, which is what I thought our relationship has been since the beginning. A lot of confusion with that because now I question if the last nearly 5 years I've been with this person was even real. I don't want to feel like a burden and I don't know why he ever asked me to be his girlfriend if he doesn't believe in that kind of thing anyways. I'm just truly confused because it didn't feel like I was speaking to him, just a stranger or something. A rug has been pulled out from under me. We never fight or have conflict and usually things are good, but I can't ignore this conversation. I feel hurt and duped, to be honest. Even in times of emotional need, he tells me to go to therapy instead of offering comfort. I feel that things went great up until the last year because I've had a lot of unexpected, uncontrollable situations that have been putting a strain on my happiness, not regarding the relationship, and everything hasn't been sunshine and rainbows. I'm at a loss. This has been a huge slap in the face. I thought we were on the same page up until now, especially when he brought up children. Is it so crazy to ask for a little commitment? Or delusional to want to grow old and have romance together? He's not much of a romance guy. I'm pretty sure he's just comfortable and not deeply in love with me. I could use some advice. My boyfriend of 4 years doesn't believe in monogamy despite our monogamous relationship and told me to go be with someone else if I want something long-term. Super confused because he brought up wanting children with me. I never asked for that or marriage. Story: we, 25M and 25F, need to change our entire relationship after a car accident. I don't know how to talk to her anymore. My 25 years old girlfriend and I have been together for 6 years, and we're talking about getting married someday when all of this happened. I am deeply in love with her, and want to know how to love her better while keeping myself sane about this. We met in college, where we were both loners, but connected over our love of running. Both of us are super into every aspect of this hobby, even more so than a lot of normal people who run. I gotta get into it all basically. We were both obsessed with types of shoes, the exact running times on certain local trails, niche techniques, water bottles, etc. Literally everything. And I'd met other people who liked running before, but not in the obsessive way I did. When I met her, it was like finding the other half of my soul immediately, as cheesy and cliché as that is. We built our relationship first as running buddies, and our entire relationship blossomed from there. We would go running together every day, and race each other in some of the most highly competitive races I've ever run. I think we've only ever skipped a handful of days every once in a while in our entire relationship. Our shared hobby is our life, and she is my whole life. We have so many memories on specific trails, and whenever we used to go out we'd talk about the latest news related to our shared interest, new sneakers that were getting released, new water bottles we wanted to try, crazy obsessive shit like that. Fast forward to the present. My girlfriend was in a massive car accident 8 months ago, and is paralyzed from the waist down. She is in a wheelchair, and it's been very hard on us both. All of the hard, scary stuff is over, but we're trying to settle back into our life and literally everything is different. For one, we can't go running together anymore, and we might not be able to ever again. She's in physiotherapy, and the hope is that one day she will be able to run again, though not for a long time. I miss this aspect of our relationship so much. We are still partners in the sense that we share certain finances, and we have been learning how to go out on dates, even having to navigate all the accessibility checks around her wheelchair, but the thing we built our relationship on is gone, or at least won't return for a long time. We've tried going to some of the easier trails, and she wheels beside me while I walk, and it was nice the first few times, but I keep thinking how much it's not the same. And since everything happened, it bums her out to talk about anything related to our shared hobby, so we just don't anymore. This whole thing makes me feel terrible and sad and frustrated. Before all of this, we had the best communication in the world, but I don't know how to talk to her about this without making her feel like I'm blaming her, or like she's not enough. I don't love her any less. My 25 years old, girlfriend 25 years old, and I fell in love through running. After a car accident, she cannot run anymore. I don't know how to talk to her about this.